going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now,
Jimothy.
So ladies and gents, I've been away for a bit. I've been so busy with work, but nevertheless we are back with another deck profile, and I've actually been in the lab somewhat trying to theory craft this deck. And the deck that I'm going to profile for you guys today is Predaplants, with a little bit of branded splashed in because branded fusion is a card. So without wasting any more time, ladies and gents, let's get straight into the profile. So starting us off, I've gone with triple Predaplant Office Scorpio. Easy special summon from deck, can get your plays going. It is a bit of a hand trap magnet, but nevertheless it grabs something directly from the deck, which is always a good thing, whether it be your Biblist or your Darlington Cobra. So definitely a powerful card, ladies and gents, and something that I probably wouldn't drop in any capacity depending on how the deck's built basically. Next up, we have the newest support, which came out of Dimension Force in the form of Predaplant Triantis. This allows you to fusion summon from your pendulum zones. It also allows you to distribute like predator counters, which is one of the deck's main gimmicks, which hasn't really been utilized to its fullest capacity because it was a little bit slow, which meant that it couldn't get its counters out, which meant that it didn't actually effectively work as the Predaplant deck. It was more of just a fusion deck that kind of just grabbed fusion spells and just popped off with fusion plays without actually leaning into the deck's actual main play style. So having a way to distribute Predaplant counters is always useful. Again, for some of the newer support, and we're kind of maxing out on the newer support, which is crazy. We've got Predaplant Bifoliculia. I think I butchered that name, but anyway, this allows you to basically fusion summon from your pendulum zones. Again, it also gives you a little bit of recursion. So if you have this card as well as Triantis in your pendulum zone, you can actually fuse into one of your fusion monsters and then use its monster effect, because as soon as it leaves the pendulum zone, it becomes a monster again. It goes straight to the extra deck face up, and you can actually add back a Predaplant pendulum monster, which would be your Triantis, to be able to start your plays again next turn. So it's a nice little bit of recursion, a nice little resource loop, and hence why I'm maxing out at 3 of it. Next up, we are also running triple Predaplant Biblist. Now, Biblist is a nice searcher. If it gets sent to the graveyard in any way, it can actually search you a Predaplant monster. Now, there is a way to send this or grab this or send it to the graveyard via branded fusion, but I am missing one of the cards, and that card is Stay Sailor Ramarin, which I'll leave an image on screen for you guys. I've got one somewhere, but I just literally could not find it. I searched through most of my jank or my bulk and I just couldn't find it. But sending Ramarin off your branded fusion can actually allow you to dump Biblist directly from the deck, which can make your branded fusion a starter basically. So Biblist just grabs your monster. It can also special summon itself out of the graveyard if there's a monster with a predator counter on the field, which again, very, very useful. Just being able to put another body on board to use for fusion plays is always going to be a good thing, especially being a dark monster as well. Next, we run triple Predaplant Saracenian. Again, if this leaves the field and goes to the graveyard, it can search a Predap card, spell or trap, ladies and gents. So this deck has gone hyper consistent along with some of the extra deck monsters. You can actually search quite a lot of your deck basically. So very, very useful card. Again, it kind of blocks attacks as well, and it kind of forces your opponent to interact with you and have some kind of negation. Otherwise you're going to be able to search stuff to be able to pop up next turn. So the follow-up plays are really good, and that's something why this is the reason I believe Konami went the way that they did with branded fusion, because inherently, like, fusion decks don't tend to have the best resource game. They put a lot of their cards into a singular monster and they don't get a lot of recursion out of it, and if that monster gets dealt with in any way, you're down so much on card advantage. So sending things directly from the deck to be able to fuse kind of mitigates the effect that you're burning a lot of resources to put fusions on board. So I can see where Konami is going with it, but branded fusion having minimal restrictions means that it's going to get abused, ladies and gents. So yeah, triple Saracenian. Anyway, went off on a bit of a tangent. Next up, running the double Predaplant Chlamydia Sundew, I pronounced that correctly. So this card is basically polymerization. You can fuse using this card and cards in your hand or on field, so it's very, very useful. Again, it does distribute counters, but more times than not, you're going to be using it for its polymerization effect. We've got the one infamous Darlington Cobra. This has been used previously in the past with Orpheus Scorpio, basically to search cards like Super Polymerization, or just any fusion spells, and this deck does it the best. It can search all of those cards as well as the aforementioned branded fusion, so definitely a card you want to include. You could potentially up this to 2 because drawing this as a one-of is not nice, ladies and gents. It shuts down a lot of your plays, but it's a risk I'm willing to take at the moment because I'm still kind of like messing around with ratios in this deck. So one Predaplant Darlington Cobra. Next up, we're running the double Albaz. Again, this potentially could be 3 Albaz because we do run a couple of targets in the extra deck to be able to just go ahead and use his on-field effect to fuse. But normally you're going to be sending this out of branded fusion. You could actually drop this to 1. However, sometimes I found with testing, you don't always go through the Lubellian line. You can go straight into your Mirror Jade. So double Albaz, again, it just makes your follow-up turn a little bit more live, especially if you don't see any of them in your opening hand and you manage to get yourself to a branded fusion. So double Albaz is useful. And for our light targets, we've got triple effect failure. Obviously it can double as a hand trap. It should be Stay Sailor Romarin, as I mentioned previously, but I'll put the effect failures in there just to kind of like placehold basically, as well as be a little bit of negation, because typically fusion decks kind of like to just go all gas. At least that's what I'm seeing with decks like branded and Despia. They just go all gas, just loads and loads of extenders to be able to push through boards. This deck, it can't necessarily do it as well as the branded deck, obviously, because their cards are just crazy, but it does have a little bit more recursion, so you do have a little bit of flexi spot to be able to put in some of your techs like hand traps, for example. So triple effect failure. Next up for the spells and traps, starting off with the Predaplant spells. Now this is a little bit janky, ladies and gents, mainly because of availability. Practice is a crazy card, but it's also £15, which is just unbelievable. Obviously Predaplants haven't done much as yet, but a £15 card is crazy. I actually pulled this way back in the day when I was trying to pull, I think it was like a Dusted Gold and Malicious Bane out of LED. Legendary Duelist Season 3, I believe. Crazy, but this card special summons a Predaplant monster as well as searches you a Predaplant card from your deck to your hand, which is crazy. So this definitely should be at least a 2 of, maybe even potentially a 3 of, although you don't want to see it without a combination of a Predaplant monster. Pruning, again, this is just a placeholder for Practice. I probably would only play one of this, but it's basically a premature burial. Basically, you just target Predaplant monster in your grave and just special summon it, equip it with this card. So basically Monster Reborn, which is crazy, and it's searchable as well, so you definitely don't need to play the 2, and you can get away with playing 1. But Practice is something I would probably max out on if I had copies of it. And then for the final Predaplant cards, we've got Predaponics and Predaprime Fusion. Now Predaprime Fusion's got a lot better with the inclusion of like Triantis, because you can distribute Predator counters. You can actually just suck up some of your opponent's monsters, which is really good, to be honest. And this is searchable. I probably wouldn't play it at 2 because it is searchable, but it is a lot more useful than it used to be. Before it was just like, I'm not playing this card, there's no point. And Predaponics, again, this is just a continuous, you just get a continuous Monster Reborn for a level 4 or lower Predaplant monster. It does negate its effects, but if you're reviving Biblis and then fusing it off, you get Biblis's effect to search, which is really useful, to be honest. So one Predaponics. Next, for the obvious, we're running triple branded fusion. Do we need to say anything else? Nope, it is the card of the hour. It's the reason why Despia is a deck, and it's so strong. So triple branded fusion, say no more. We're also running one instant fusion and double polymerization. I did put the second polymerization in as a bit of a placeholder because I was at 39 cards and I was like, do you know what? I can't find my Call by the Grave, so I'm going to put it in for the profile. But one of these should be Call by the Grave, ladies and gents, just to keep you guys posted. We're also running one Monster Reborn and double Super Polymerization. The third one is in the side. Again, I don't want to brick with seeing too many. You can actually put the third one in if you know you're going to be going second, but I've decided to just go with the double Polymerization for now. Seems to work out fine when I've been doing a couple of test hands, but I haven't done any live testing as yet, so we'll see how that goes. The ratios might change on that. And then on to the traps. We are running triple Preda Planning. This card is actually pretty good. Again, it distributes your predator counters, and when you fuse and this card is engraved, you can actually banish it to pop a card. So you fusing then becomes a little bit of removal, which is really useful. Again, it hides in your graveyard, it banishes for cost. So again, really useful card, hence why I'm running it at 3. It's also a good discard fodder because obviously you can use it engraved. So triple predator planning. And next we are on to the extra deck. Now, before we go into the extra deck, ladies and gents, quick honorable mention. I was actually thinking about putting in a playset Allure of Darkness. Again, just to add some much, well, I wouldn't say it's needed, to be honest, because it's pretty consistent, the deck as it is, but just to make it a bit more hyper consistent, just being able to draw off Allure of Darkness. Again, most of your deck's dark. I'm only playing Effect Failure as a light target, so the chances of you resolving Allure of Darkness are pretty high. So definitely a card I might actually test. I might even put it in the side until I get a chance to do some live testing. But Allure of Darkness, ladies and gents, definitely a card you might want to consider. Now, for the most broken common fusion card that I've seen in a while, Predaplant Ambulo Melodies. I think I've pronounced that correctly. Yeah. This card, on summon, on fusion summon, it can search you a card, and it can also tribute a monster to be able to special summon a Predaplant monster from your deck, which is crazy. It's level 5, which means it makes my fusion instant fusion live, ladies and gents. So instant fusion is basically a 1-card starter with this card, which is just absolutely phenomenal. Again, sometimes you have this unfilled via instant fusion, and you can actually just go straight into your Mirror Jade if you've got a branded fusion in hand as well, which is something that I've found that I've been doing quite a lot with the couple of test hands that I've been doing, ladies and gents. So definitely a 2 of, in my opinion. Just 1 for your first turn plays, and 1 for like turn 3 should your board get broken if you're going first. So definitely a card that I really enjoy. Also, it's pretty easy to fuse into. The philosophy behind the extra deck is I've tried to go with double up on the cards that are just the easiest to summon and are going to net me the most advantage. So double Ambulo Melodies for that reason. Also, we are running this card, which seems to be turning into a Despia card, but nope, it's actually a Predaplant card. Dragos Stapelia. Again, you know what it does by now. It's been around forever. Nice super poly target, but it works best in its own deck because of the new way that you can distribute Predator counters. So yeah. Also, we're running double Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. Again, nothing really needs to be said about this. The attack gain in this card is really useful. It can beat over towers like monsters, like, I don't know, Arrival at Ignista. So definitely useful card, as well as the board wipe, ladies and gents. Just something to remember. Can actually be very problematic for your opponent. Also, again, just because of ease of summoning, we're going with 2 Predaplant Chimera Rafflesia. This searches you your branded fusion, searches you instant fusion, polymerization, super, whatever you want, ladies and gents. It just grabs it. And it is a little bit slow because it's on a standby phase of the next turn, but if you're grabbing a super polymerization on the standby phase of your turn, if you went first, for example, you're definitely going to guarantee yourself a board wipe. Hence why I didn't play the triple super polymerization. So really useful card, very easy to summon, just taking 2 Predaplant monsters. So yeah. Next, 1 Predaplant Trifioviriumtum, 1 Greedy Venom Fusion Dragon. This potentially could be taken out. It's not as useful as I thought it was. I literally put it in there because I wanted to keep the deck as close to Predaplant as I potentially could, but it's not actually all of that. It does reborn you one of your Predaplant monsters, but I'm sorry, reborn itself, but it doesn't do a whole lot. Unlike Trifioviritum, as well as the new Starving Venom Predaplant Fusion Dragon, which is basically it can remove one of your opponent's monsters with a Predator counter and to negate one of their card effects. So the card advantage, if you play this card correctly, is actually crazy. And especially like I've been mentioning throughout the video, the way that the distribute Predator counters makes this card live more times than it isn't. So as long as you're playing correctly, you can actually resolve this card pretty easily. So definitely a new card to add to the arsenal of extra options that this deck has now. And then finally, ladies and gents, we are running the usual package of, let me put that there, the the branded stuff. So we've just got one Mirror Jade, one Lubellion, one Albion, and one Titanic Clad. Again, this is literally just to be able to get at Mirror Jade as a bit of an interruption. Very, very rare am I going to be summoning the Albion, but I do have that as an option, ladies and gents, so it's something to keep in mind. And obviously Mirror Jade, we all know what that card does. It's actually silly. Again, board wipes for days. This and Starving Venom can wipe your opponent's board twice, so something to keep in mind, to be honest. And that is it, ladies and gents. That is the profile. Again, I haven't had much play testing with this deck, but it's very, very interesting. Obviously, it's not as strong as Despia at the moment because of the way that the cards are, but it's a nice different way of approaching a fusion deck, and it has some nice interactions, and it's a little bit refreshing, as well as being a little bit rogue. So if your opponent's not familiar with what the cards do, you can actually steal a few wins, and we all know how powerful super polymerization is. So yeah, but I'm definitely gonna be tweaking this deck over the coming week, and it's potentially something that I might even take to locals this week, so we'll see how it goes. But anyway, we find ourselves at the end of another video. As always, if you do like this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff, and I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.